I'll just give a short introduction who I am to begin with, because I haven't really met most of you before. I'm an archaeologist at the company in contract archaeology called Stiftelsen Kulturmiljövård. And since about a year now, I've also been a PhD student at the GRASCA. It's a graduate school of contract archaeology in Kalmar, the Linnaeus University. And my research theme concerns engagement and participation of people in archaeological heritage, especially within the scope of the archaeological landscape. And I think you presented previously in the presentations very good views of how archaeology connects with landscape in order to understand the places you're investigating. So my part of my aims is to study and evaluate the efficiency of communication methods within contract archaeology to enhance public knowledge and interest for the past, and also derive the physical and social factors that affect communicating contract archaeology. And you mentioned already in several places sometimes the problems to transport yourself to the sites and so on and so forth. And my aim with the research is to show how to implement more focused and cost-efficient methods in communicating contract archaeology. And I just want to say also that about a couple of decades ago, I used to work as a maritime archaeologist at the Viking theme park in Foteviken in southern Scania, where we were doing a lot of these type of outreach programs, reconstructing environments that I can see. So you have so many good examples of here. So let's see now. The next there. Yeah. So I'm just going to give a very quick view on different views on landscape, of course. This is a picture, a painting that shows Juan de Oñate in 1626 discovering Grand Canyon. And he thought, of course, he discovered it, but there were, of course, people who had lived there for thousands of years already. And up to the middle of the 19th century, this area was considered completely worthless. It had nothing to give at all, because you couldn't do any good agriculture and things like that. But today, of course, the situation is different. I think in 2018, it had about 7 million visitors. So it's all about the different values that we create about different landscapes. And this is, of course, where the definition of landscape comes from as well. It's how we relate to different types of spaces and then call them different places and so on. And this view of landscape shifts through time, of course. It's mental as well as physical, it's subjective as well as objective, and it's multivocal and depends on the viewer's objective. And it can work on the same time both on an individual level as well as a community level. And this is, of course, what you have to bring with when you're doing types of landscape assessments, how valuable it is in economic terms and aesthetic terms, for instance. And this is considered in order to justify special treatment or absolute protections. And basically, this comes into the view of heritage. And there's, of course, the traditional view has been that there's certain places that are considered suitable for being a heritage. But of course, this has been debated in the last couple of decades what type of values should go into what is heritage, and also that heritage is not just a certain place, but it's something that you do. It's something you have to connect with it in order for a place to be a heritage. And this all goes into very much into what contract archaeology is about in Sweden. So an archaeological site in Sweden is a type of heritage that consists of a defined place or group of physical sites in which, using the discipline of archaeology, evidence of past activity, usually predating 1850, is acknowledged and recorded. So these are a lot of sites that are protected, but whenever there's need for development of some form, the county council makes decisions if this is a place that can be documented and removed. And in most cases, it's very seldom that these ordinary sites anyway is a hindrance for development. But we need to do, through the Swedish law, you have to make an excavation before that. So the thing is that a lot of the archaeological sites in Sweden often consist of areas that in many times are invisible above ground and hard to recognize. And you've seen it the same with Sortemuld and also a lot of Uppåkra as well, that it's only when you really start excavating that you have a chance to see the places and experience it in some way. And the time frame and accessibility for the public to take part in an excavation is in many cases in contract archaeology quite limited. And the results is that the knowledge from many excavations seldom reaches the broader public, and that the archaeological site vanishes from the landscape without leaving a lasting trace for the public. There's been changes into the Swedish law now in 2014, where there's been put a larger emphasis that the archaeological projects should include, beyond the antiquarian results, also a larger portion of mediation and participation of the public. And the purpose of this is to create conditions that actively contribute to enhanced quality of life, and that humanistic perspectives are given means to influence the development of society. And this, of course, is something that I believe is something that could also benefit tourism of these places within this category. So otherwise, we have to, of course, look at how different actors and stakeholders work in contract archaeology. And throughout the history of contract archaeology, there's often been a conflict between the interest of developers and the cultural workers. So it's very beneficial if archaeologists can be involved in this developing process as early as possible in order to find common grounds, good solutions, and so on. And so what I'm looking at is contract archaeology as an event. And in my view, you can see excavations as a continuous process of creating temporary and unique events, windows through which the public can experience the history of a place. And that excavations are a performative cultural act in real time. We talked about that before, and it's something that happens here and now, and it's something that brings a lot of feeling of connection or originality and authenticity in order to communicate the archaeological narrative to wider audiences. This is a tool to better understand the past narrative. And here is an example from an excavation that took place 2 years ago in the middle of the field beyond a farmhouse. And it was on the Swedish, it's basically almost exactly 2 years ago. It was on the Swedish weekend of Valborg, where people are a lot, usually spend time with their families and so on, so forth. And it was pouring rain and it was just mud, and we didn't really have any facilities to show that this is supposed to be a house. It's hard to see. We use the Postholes, but we had 150 people coming anyway, like that. And it shows and this is right outside in the rural landscape. So it shows the local interest for what we are doing. So I think there's a lot of potential for using these resources that are given to us as part of the Swedish law, really. And this is one of my case studies is Hjulsta. It's connected to, it's an area in the suburbs of northern Stockholm, and it was the excavation took place at the time of developing a new motorway, Förbifart Stockholm. So basically you can see in the distance here, this is one of the areas of the motorway that will connect with this new part that will go around the western part of Stockholm. So this is a drone photo and shows just the first pre-excavation trenches and so forth. And of course, for most people who living here, there were some protests, but most of that was connected with the nature. So people are known to connect with the nature a lot, but really didn't have any idea about the site that we had here. And there was a large burial ground connected with the areas where there had been settlements, but also we found the postholes of what we think was a religious type of house that had connection with this burial ground. We could claim the name would be like a hall or something like that, or similar to Uppåkra and so on, but it's not at all so fancy, of course. Works much more on a local basis. So, of course, here is what we have in Sweden, something called fornkök or fornlägg, as we use as archaeologists. And you can see these different types of archaeological sites. And this was the area that we were excavating. And but it's not used generally by the public to gain information. Usually it's more for administration purpose. So this is something I think they're trying to develop, so you can get more information from it now. And I think it's also necessary for this information to spread to the public to make use. And then again, the first immediate view you have of the site can be quite confusing, especially if there's a lot of things going on. So this is the site for this hall, as we call it, and it's hard to see what is what. Actually, there are some foxholes here because it used to be a military exercise field as well. So there had been, quite a lot of disturbance in the area as well. So, but it's easier to see with the aerial view. some part of the terrace, and you can see here the post holes. This is the foxhole, and yeah, it's a bit clearer to show it. And then, of course, analysis gives you the outline, how big the house was, of course, eventually, and how different parts. This was like a, you could call like a sacrificial base next to the door of the house. And you can see how things connecting, and also a sacrifice we found inside the house as well, in form of a, I think it was an iron knife or something that was stuck into the post hole. This is quite typical, you can find in Sweden. And then you get into interpretation, and of course we don't have any remains at all. We've just found some wooden, some charcoal and pieces of some of the post holes. We could see what type of wood that we used. In this case, it was oak and pine. But this is a comparison to another site that looked very similar, where they did a reconstruction. And yeah, you have to start using artistic views, like and get some comparisons. For instance, I think for this model they compared it a bit to the Norwegian stave churches and so on and so forth. And of course, yeah, I know it's the same with Uppåkra, the reconstructions for that. And then it comes to storytelling, and it's important, I think, for the public to get a narrative, to really connect to persons given a name or something like. And in my case, I made just for fun, a bit of a ghost story connecting two of the soldiers who were in the foxholes, and seeing this ghost story in front of them. And we actually got comments from a couple of the readers who had themselves had similar type of ghost experience at the site before. So that was quite funny to hear that it actually connected to their personal experience of the site. And of course, interaction is a very important part of understanding a place, and also connecting better to it, getting this authentic feeling. And of course, you can have setbacks. This was in beginning of November, so then it becomes very hard to show this for visitors. So this is a reality for half the year in Sweden. So this is, I think, we can develop more. That's why it's very good if we can develop digital tools that you can show different. And they started to do that as well. You can see film clips and things like that from the excavation itself. And of course, working with community, very important. This was a suburb area with a lot of immigrants. So there was a lot of interest to try to connect history with integration, of course, and getting outreach. And these are groups that usually are not very interested in what we were doing. Usually it's local historical societies and people who are retired and so on, senior citizens. And of course, we were working a lot with schools as well. But it's important to get these outreach programs. And these were some of the tools we used. It was called On-Spot Story, where you can walk around and see some of the places in the area, and you get information about these different sites. There is a trail, historical trail with signs that's supposed to last even after the excavation took place. There's the material for schools teaching, and it's also working together with the developers, their web page and so forth. But yeah, basically, I think we need to look back to our own roots. Why do we think what we're doing is interesting? What is it that makes us choose this type of work, and so on and so forth? So I think we need to stimulate that type of feeling also to the people who visit us, and also see that there are wider possibilities to reach out. And I think especially in these days with the corona virus gives us the possibility of developing better digital methods for this. Yeah, I don't know how much time do I have left? Do I have any time left, or?
Yeah, I mean, we started 10 minutes, so you have some more minutes if you need it.
Okay. Yeah, basically, well, the thing is, what I've looked into, how we can develop our dissemination of results, and also being participating better. There are different types of new media as well that you can use. A new tool is called Story Map, for instance, that you can use. It's free to download, but if you have Archies, you can use it to store even more amounts, and you can use film clips, for instance, connected with a map, just like the on-spot story I showed before. And of course, working more with 3D models is becoming more common, and especially in places where you can't have any good guidings on the site. There sometimes it's very restricted or hard to reach, or so on. And this works with drones and photogrammetry, for instance. And you have examples from in Old Uppsala, where Deezer have worked with this, of course. And you have Nya Lödöse outside Gothenburg, and Sandbyborg on Öland also done 3D reconstructions. And a few of my GRASCA student colleagues are looking into different parts of these areas. And also one maritime archaeologist is looking into how to show shipwrecks, which is of course very hard if you don't dive. And there's a very good example in the form of Mars. It's a Swedish warship that is outside Öland, but it's supposed to be shown at the Museum of Västervik. And it actually gives the feeling of diving as well when you're looking at the model. And of course, digital networking is very important. We're now working on a project that's starting up on Ostlänken. That's going to be one of the largest Swedish excavation areas for the next 5 years. We're working together with senior local history societies, and we just last night we had a meeting with them over the Zoom. And of course, it's hard for these old people to they're not supposed to go outside in Sweden, even if everybody else here can do it actually still. And we were trying to find new ways to connect to them and teach them how to use the media better as well, and also get in behind the curtain, how we work with maps and how we work with different type of archives and things like this. So it's really fun to see, and I'm going to use that for a pilot study to see how we can develop this further. But like I said, I'm very interested to see how we could use this trend, this movement of getting also additional resources from the government to do more mediation and participation. And this could actually be part of the tourist sector, even though contract archaeology sites are not permanent like Boka or so forth, but it's an ongoing process that continues all the time, and actually over longer time of the year. So if you can find good platforms to connect that, you could probably, especially like Ostlänken, that's a certain region also as well. So yeah, I'm really keen on learning more from your examples in this area as well.